There are a lot of changes going on in real estate right now. Between the NAR lawsuit, the settlement of the lawsuit, but there are more lawsuits, copycat lawsuits out there, lots of changes going on. And as it relates to Florida, you have a bunch of other problems as well. Obtaining homeowners insurance, lots of changes in regulations with condos. There are so many things going on in terms of real estate right now that I would like to take just this video to help you out with this to the best of my ability. So if this is the first time we're meeting, I'm glad you're here. My name is Barrett Pastor and I've been a real estate broker for 25 years. So hopefully I'm coming to you from a place of knowledge and experience, and I can help you navigate this. More and more is being added to this constantly. So what we're going to be talking about today is how you as a buyer or a seller can get the most out of your real estate broker. That's important. You know, you're paying for it. And now as a buyer, you might be paying for it. You know, it's funny to me. And in this video, with your permission, I am just going to speak from my heart. You know, sometimes I'll line something out and I'll start a draft. I started that today. And the more and more I wrote it out, the more I thought, you know what, I just want to speak from my heart in terms of my experience and what I'm seeing and what I really truly think will help you the most. As always on my channel, I give you all the pieces to the puzzle, and then it's up to you to kind of put them together in how they work in your world. So let me start with this. I am hearing this all over Facebook, Instagram, the internet, the news, the wherever you look. I am hearing this everywhere.
Well, thank goodness for this lawsuit. I am really happy that somebody finally did something about those fat cat real estate agents.
All right. Now, there are so many things I want to say about that, and maybe some people need to know that real estate agents are self-employed. We pay for all of our own marketing. Obviously, we pay for our gas to drive people around to look at 35 houses on a weekend. We get no payment. We might have months and sometimes even years into a buyer or a seller and make nothing. On a seller, we pay for the photography, all of it. Now there's so much more you have to do. We do virtual tours. It is very expensive to take a listing on. And on top of that, on top of no guaranteed pay until the deal closes, if the deal closes, we also have no retirement, no pension, no health insurance. Think about the no health insurance. That's a fun one. But that's a different conversation. Listen.
You got into that field, Barrett. Don't complain to me.
You got into that field. I hear you. I get it. I agree. So from that perspective, forget about that. Let me just give you a little something to think about. Nobody should work for free, and no one is expected to work for free. You are not expected to work for free, and I'm sure you don't want your real estate agent to work for free, because if they do, you are probably not getting top quality care. Can we agree to that? That would not always be a good thing, because that is not a fair agreement to get into. So if you're a buyer and you want to find a home, you want to find your dream home for your family, and you want it to be all the good things. You want it to be in a safe neighborhood. You don't want to have these secret mold issues, Chinese drywall, a roof that's bad. You don't want to have any of that, termites, whatever it may be. You want to be in a neighborhood that doesn't have a proposed, city dump that's going to be a half mile around the corner, but you don't know about it because you don't, as a buyer, go to planning and zoning meetings. You don't do any of that. So you want your real estate agent to have your back and take care of you. Of course, that person is going to have some kind of expectation to get paid. So if you want a buyer's agent representing you, or in Florida, we call it a single agency agreement. If that is what you want, who is going to pay for that? Well, it used to be the seller. Remember how you got really excited about the fat cat agent making all the money? Okay. It used to be the seller to pay commission, and it still is now. We're working through it, but come July 2024, what we call co-brokerage is going to be removed from the MLS. So that means a seller can say, I am paying for a buyer's agent $0. So how many buyer's agents are going to work for zero? You know, we have E&O we have to pay, errors and omissions. If we make a mistake in doing something, because people are human and hopefully we don't make mistakes, but if we do, we have errors and omissions that we pay for every single deal to make sure that everybody is covered in the deal to some degree. So who is going to pay the buyer's agent if the seller is not paying the commission anymore? And again, I'm not going to get into the seller pays the commission, it's the listing agent sets the commission, there's a co-broke with the buyer's agent, it goes to the broker. I'm not getting into all that. In your mind and the way you see it, you have not paid it as a buyer. Who is going to pay it now? Do you have money to pay your buyer's agent? Oh, you don't? Well, who's going to pay for that? Do you think the buyer's agent's going to work for free? Because let me tell you what a buyer's agent is going to do for you. They are going to write the contract, make sure the contract is legal, make sure you meet every deadline in the contract so you're not in a bad legal position. They are going to make sure your property is not only not in a floodplain, but also that it's not in a flood-prone area. You know how there's some areas, especially in Florida, maybe they're not zoned floodplain, but I know because I work the market that area over there does tend to flood. I know that part of Golden Gate Estates has flooding, soaky water issues constantly. Maybe it's not in a floodplain, but the water sits in the land typically in that area. So that garden that you want to have is probably not going to come to fruition. That outbuilding you want to put on the land is probably not going to work. Somebody needs to tell you all that. How about showing up at the P&Z meetings to know that there's going to be a city dump a half a mile away. There's going to be apartments that are a quarter mile away that you really aren't comfortable with. You didn't want to live by apartments. Maybe you're somebody that didn't realize that the property you just bought, because of the beautiful Gulf of Mexico view, maybe you didn't know that a year from now they're planning to put up a 30-story building right in front of your beautiful view. Who's going to tell you these things? What about history in the property? What if I know, because Naples is a small town? What if I know that there was a triple murder 4 doors down of the house that you want to put an offer on? Guess what? That's not in our disclosures. It's not there. That's called psychologically impacted, and that is not a disclosure item. Who's gonna tell you all of this stuff? Who's gonna tell you if, yeah, Bonita National looks like it is setting a number right now, but let me tell you where those numbers were 3 years ago, and let me tell you what the decline looks like. Additionally, what if I know that a neighborhood has some awesome amenities that have not been introduced yet that are gonna be right around the corner, and we anticipate that values are gonna go up in this neighborhood, and you wanna target this neighborhood because it's going to go nowhere but up. Who's going to tell you all of that? Did I make my point? I hope I made my point. All right, so how do you work this to your advantage? Well, if you're a seller, it is going to be my strong suggestion that you differentiate, okay? That you don't do what a lot of sellers are going to do, because they're just going to be thinking about money, and they're not going to be thinking about how they can work this as leverage and an angle to have all the buyer's agents working for them. If it's me, and it will be, I know that it will be, and if I am working as your listing agent, guess what? I am going to sit down with you and I'm going to talk to you about all of your options. I'm going to say, yes, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you can choose to pay no buyer's agent at all. You can choose to say buyer's agent commission is a goose egg. Now, we're going to talk through that. How does that benefit you? What do we get by doing that? Are we working off a net number? Don't you really just care about what's going to go in your pocket and how I can make you the most amount of money? How can I do that? Do I want all the other agents? If there are 7 properties on the market, which there will be in Florida, it is a flooded market. These changes are coming in July 2024. Unless they change them, unless something becomes different, it's going to be zero. It's going to be nothing in the MLS for a co-broker. So if you allow allow me, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, to let all of the many thousands of agents out there in the marketplace that are trying to think of how they're going to feed their family, if we let them know that, hey, you know what? We are going to pay you 3% or 2% or 1.5% or whatever the number is that we come up with together. We are happy to pay you and you are welcome here at your home, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Now, am I going to work that into the number that we want to sell the house for? I absolutely am going to do that because my job is to take care of you. But guess what? The other sellers out there that have hired agents who are letting their seller just go down the path of,
I'm not going to pay that buyer's agent. Let the buyer pay the buyer's agent.
So you have all these agents that are going on the MLS and they're seeing zero. And then you have me as your listing agent making all these agents aware through email blast that your home will work in an X commission. You're happy to do it. They're welcome. Come show your property. Whose house do you think is selling first? Now, let's say I'm a buyer and I'm coming from Michigan and I want to find my dream home for my family. I'm only going to be here 6 months out of the year. I need to know, are there rules and regulations I need to know about? Does the community allow me to Airbnb, or is that against the rules? Is my dog too big? Do I need to provide vet records? Did they do the engineer's report, or could I be in a position where I'm going to have a big increase in the HOA fees? Is this in a floodplain? Is it insurable? Let me know what's going on in the community. All these things we've talked about, you need to know that. So you make the determination that I need a buyer's agent. Well, the next thing you need to ask yourself is, how committed to that buyer's agent am I going to be? So here would be my suggestion. Interview agents. And agents out there, because I know there's a lot of agents that watch me and I appreciate you as well. I would strongly suggest the reverse of that. Interview your buyers. Gone, in my opinion, is the day where you take somebody, a customer, off of the website that rhymes with pillow, we'll just say, and they call you up and they say,
hi, I got you off Pillow and I want to look, I'm going to be in town this weekend and I want to look at 11 properties.
You better make darn sure that they are committed to you, because you might spend the entire weekend spinning your wheels, doing a ton of research, trying to help somebody, and at the end of the day, you're not going to make one dime. Now, that's the risk we take anyway, but at least we can know that if I'm committed to you, you're committed to me. Now, the next question may be, but what do I do? Because I'm looking at $1 million homes. I'm Mr. Buyer over here, and I'm looking at $1 million homes, and the commission looks like it's going to be 30 grand. I'm really sorry, but I'm not 30 grand in. I don't want to do that. Okay, so if you're choosing houses out of the MLS, and all those houses out of the MLS, when they were listed originally, had a 6% commission worked into them, or a 5% commission, whatever the number is, which we can see as agents. If you know that they have that on the market for $1 million, but it worked in a $30,000 commission, don't you right out of the gate feel like there's $30,000 in negotiation? You should, because that's what they're telling us, that the real estate agents have pushed up the numbers out of greed. I'm not really sure how that works out, but okay. So that's something you need to know. So if your agent is going to be dedicated to you and show you all these things that we just talked about and make sure you get the best deal, then you understand that you've got to pay them something if the seller isn't going to pay them anything. So that is a conversation. Anymore, you should be sitting down with, or Zooming with, or having a very in-depth phone call with your potential buyer's agent to say, look, should we get into the position of no commission being paid? Here's what I'm willing to do. So a good agent is going to ask you these questions, but if they don't, you should ask it. Look, okay, thank you, Mr. Buyer. I'm so glad you brought that up. If the seller is offering commission, I am happy to accept whatever that commission is, as long as it is 1% minimum, because that is about what I'm going to need to cover to get all of this done for you. If you're agreeable to that, I am certainly agreeable to that, and I am more than willing to be flexible and have the deal make sense, because my ultimate goal is to get you the house that you want. So we agree to that. Well, what if the commission is 0? Now what do we do? Well, you know, Barrett, my wife and I have thought about that, and we know that there's value in what buyer's agents do, and we would like to just simply say that we're into the deal for 1%. So if that seller is offering you a 0.5%, we will make up the other 0.5%. We're totally fine with that. Can we agree to that? Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I can agree to that. That sounds really good to me. I'm going to get to work in finding you exactly what you're looking for. And in the meantime, be on the lookout in your email. I'm going to send you over a signature request with my buyer's broker agreement. And if you wouldn't mind just signing that, so that way there's no question in terms of what we agreed to, and I can focus on finding the exact home that you're looking for. So that's how I'd set those expectations. Things are changing right now, and the way that I'm going to do business is going to change. The way that you are going to buy and sell is going to change. But I think if people are reasonable and people are respectful of the other person, you as a buyer want to get the best deal you can. You as a seller want to net the most amount of money that you can. And I myself as an agent, whether a listing agent or a buyer's agent, I want to be able to feed my family as well. And as long as everyone keeps in mind that it has to be a bit of a win-win for everyone, that I think that it works. But people have to be willing to have a conversation. I think gone are the days where you can go on the internet, pick up the phone and have an agent show you 10 properties. I just don't think that's going to be realistic anymore. You know, if you're a first-time buyer, which probably not in the market that I work, it's not common at all. We're basically a second home market. Most people are snowbirds. But if you're a first-time buyer and you have scraped, as I said in my last video, you have scraped and saved, and that X amount that you're going to have to pay a buyer's agent, you can't pay that. Well, then what happens? What happens to all of that representation that you were going to get? Who's going to do that for you? That is the element that I think really got lost in this whole NAR lawsuit thing. So I don't know. I mean, they're trying to kind of spin it and toss it off as the fat cat real estate agents are going to go down. But what about the buyers and the VA buyers, the FHA buyers, the rural agricultural buyers that get 100% financing? What about those folks that maybe are, you know, credit golden but cash poor? How does that work? And that is the one thing that I think we're going to find out. Now, that will probably not apply in the area, like I said, that I work, which is coastal Florida, but it could really become a problem. So anyway, I hope that was helpful to you. If you have any questions about it at all, as always, call, text, email. I'm always here to help.